Hello and welcome to the NonProfit World TV show. I'm your guest host, Donna Hagiga, and today we have with us Wildaliz Bermudez from Chispa. Welcome to the show,
Hi,
Wildaliz.
thank you so much for having me, Donna. Really appreciate it.
Sure, we're very excited to have you on our show tonight. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about Chispa in terms of how it relates to the League of Conservation Voters.
Yeah, so the Connecticut League of Conservation Voters is a nonprofit environmental agency, and our offices are actually right in Hartford. And I say that because a lot of people don't realize that, but yes, we're right in Hartford. But we serve all of Connecticut. The Connecticut League of Conservation Voters was started in Connecticut 16 years ago. And we follow the motto from the National League of Conservation Voters, which is based out of DC. And throughout the country, there are over 25, upwards of 30 different states that have their own leagues.
Okay, great. And Chispa, whose brainchild was this? And can you tell our viewers a little bit about what Chispa is? I understand that it's about youth empowerment in terms of learning about what role they can play in terms of environmental justice issues.
Yes, that's exactly it. So Chispa is, as you know, in Spanish, it means spark. And it's really about how do we ignite that passion for the environment for people. And specifically looking at Latinos and also communities of color in our state of Connecticut. And so the brainchild behind Chispa. So at the Connecticut League of Conservation Voters over more than 3-4 years ago, we realized that the Latino population is certainly growing. And if we look at our urban centers, if we look at Hartford, New Haven, Bridgeport, our Waterburys, predominantly it's people of color who live in these urban communities in these cities and are affected the hardest by environmental issues, right, at disproportionate levels. And so of going back in time, the League had been wanting to do this kind of work in terms of direct educational outreach with environmental justice issues to cities, to communities of color. But around 3 years ago, the National League of Conservation Voters, they rolled out this amazing program called Chispa. Mm-hmm. And it's been so successful that actually throughout these 3 years, they've been able to expand. So for instance, Colorado has a Chispa branch of Chispa program. Also Maryland has one. New Mexico has a Chispa program. Nevada has a Chispa program. And right now they're even looking at Texas to have a Chispa program. So it's been branching out. And of course, here at the League of Conservation Voters in Connecticut, we have our Chispa program, which we've launched as of this year, 2016.
Okay, so I was going to ask you where we were sort of in the lineup of the state rollout, so now we know that it's this year. You mentioned some health disparities and the fact that people in urban communities are disproportionately affected by health disparities, such as asthma. What are some of the other typical impacts that the environment can have, particularly in folks in the urban communities?
Oh, yeah. So the issue of asthma and the issue of air quality is a huge one, right? If we look at a place like Hartford, where Hartford collects over 69 different towns' trash, and we incinerate it. And so certainly that causes asthma, and there's many other factors. We have the highway running through our city. And so asthma is a big proponent of it. And a lot of people don't realize that asthma is one of the leading cause for students to miss school in cities. And so who are those students? They're students of color.
Sure.
And so asthma being one issue, but beyond that, we also have lead. If we, again, going back to our cities, there's a lot of properties that are really have been in a state of disarray for some time without proper repairs. We have in some cases, a lot of absentee landlords that don't even live in the state of Connecticut. And so we have really high issues of lead. So that's another disproportionate effect in terms of health and the environment. But we're looking at environmental justice issues. So it can be something as what some people might say simple, but it's not really simple. littering, right, and trash, and the amount of trash that is around the areas in the community that are certainly exacerbated by many factors, but that does something to the perception of what people have within their own community, that sense of pride, the perception of, the broken glass syndrome. So if you see a broken window, then it's that house might be 10 times more likely to get broken into, and the cycles of poverty continue. Well, the same is also true for litter. The same is also true for trash, and it creates a certain state of mind that when you're living in that area, you almost feel like it's just, that it is what it is, but it creates many other effects along with it. There are many other issues when it comes to environmental justice. There's the levels of toxins that are found in children's products. There's the lack of actual green spaces in our urban communities. And while certain cities do have parks, do those parks have enough trees? And certainly that helps with the air pollution quality. Asthma being one of the factors, but also cancer rates being another. And so beyond those issues, I've highlighted a couple of them. There are many other ones that come to mind. And water being another one.
Oh, sure, definitely. And also, obviously, water bottles and that whole, trying to reduce waste and clean drinking water, as we've seen with Flint, Michigan. Everyone should be concerned about how clean their drinking water is. So for sure, there's really important things there. I want to take a step back and talk a little bit about what Chispa does in terms of education. Certainly, it's all about the environmental lens, but as I understand it, you also do really important sort of introductory work in teaching the youth about the governmental system, the political process, and how they can get involved. Tell me a little bit about how that education is done. Is it somebody comes to the class and teaches them, or how do you do that?
Yeah, so with Chispa, the beauty is that we have the curriculum from the National League of Conservation Voters, and we also supplement that curriculum with our curriculum as well from the league, from the Connecticut CTLCV. And so we can go into an already existing school setting. So specifically, we're looking at, when we talk about youth, the ages between 14 through 18, so a high school would be an ideal place to teach youth about these topics. But beyond that, we can also go into community centers. And so we've partnered up during the summer with other agencies like the Center for Latino Progress, and there were youth from all different parts of Hartford. But primarily, they attended 2 high schools. And so certainly, we want to reach that youth population, but we want to reach their parents or residents in general. So we can bring the classroom setting to different entities. And it's something that we would be instructing the youth and or residents about. And yes, the curriculum is, it entails going through the basics of government, the role of government. Donna, you and I know, unfortunately, right now, we don't teach civics, and it is so important in our community. So in order for us to say, oh yeah, you should definitely be involved and an engaged citizen, well, yes, that's true, but let's take one step back and actually have a real connection with people to have them understand why that's so important. What does the system look like for them to get engaged? Where can they begin? And to do it in ways that are meaningful to them and that they can relate to, right? We don't want to just teach just for the sake of teaching. It's not about that. It's about really empowering.
So where have you seen, I'm sure, the youth everybody has their own issue, but do you see any trends in terms of the youth in terms of what they are most interested in, whether it's, preventing asthma or clean drinking water? Are there any trends that you've seen within the state, with the community that you've been helping to educate?
Yeah, so with youth, it's a little tricky, right? Because you're talking about a younger demographic, a younger population. And so sometimes people say, well, how can someone get interested in the environment? And I say, great question, because when you ask someone, especially like a young person who lives in a city, have you thought about the environment? They're like, trees, how does that impact me? And so first and foremost, what I just mentioned before, that we don't teach civics, unless if a high school student attends an environmental high school or themed academy, they are not taught about the environment in the way that you and I would think about the environment. And so they might distance themselves immediately from even thinking that the urban setting that they live in is actually a living environment, right? So we have to meet them where they're at. And so one of the things that I found with Chispa, as we roll out different parts of the curriculum, you know, we go through the government, and then we talk about food justice, we talk about energy and land, and so different components to it. But when we, for instance, as an example, teach them about waste, how can we meet them where they're at? So talk about it in ways that are meaningful to them. Everyone's a consumer. Youth, high school students are consumers. They love fashion, right? They like shopping. And so
cool sneakers.
Sneakers, the latest things. And so what we're able to do is supplement it with information that is relevant to them being a consumer. So when you go to the mall and you're actually thinking about spending over $250 on a new pair of whatever brand name sneaker you're gonna buy, what does that mean in terms of the environment, right? So
what's the impact?
The fast fashion, there's a whole whole series of a lesson plan on fast fashion that we could go into. But how does that fit into the bigger cycle of how you're connected to the environment, how you're connected to being a consumer, and the overall, both on the global end of things, but also on the local end of things. So it's just like,
so even on the local end, do you touch upon, you know, the either importance or the opportunity of what you can do by shopping local versus, wonderful.
Absolutely.
Great.
And we also bring in people from the community. So when we started our Chispa rollout program this summer, we brought in actual entrepreneurs from Hartford.
Great.
So folks who are on the ground and have established their own businesses within that specific area. So for example, we brought in Blue Earth Compost. Hartford business, they're all about composting. They spoke to the youth. We also partnered with the Keeney Park Family Day Foundation, and the youth were able to have a field trip there. We partnered with people like Leticia Colon de Mejias, who runs her own energy efficiency solutions company.
Wonderful.
So put it in ways that it's not just, documentary curriculum, but real life examples of it is the environment. It's about taking care of the very limited resources that we have. But there's also a financial benefit to this. And so we add that part too.
That's wonderful. I'm sure you're a small staff, considering that you're a nonprofit. How do you make sure that you do work across the state, or are you trying in your rollout to kind of start with maybe a bigger impact in Hartford and then ripple? How does that work?
Yeah, so we are, like so many other nonprofit agencies, we are a small staff. But what we do is we want to, and we have so far, linked with a lot of colleges and universities. So we've partnered with, and we've gotten interns from the University of Hartford, we've gotten interns from the UConn School of Social Work, and, you know, because they have a community organizing program, and School of the Social Work program as well, along with other partners, even as far as Fairfield University. Right now, we have an intern from Fairfield University. St. Joseph College for Women has been another great resource in terms of getting interns. We also have an intern from Trinity College who's helping us. She's actually an environmental science student who's helping us with the curriculum of Chispa.
Oh, wonderful.
So it's all about so we are in Hartford, and we do have a base here, But our program, the League of Conservation Voters, we do work throughout the state of Connecticut. So our goal really is to expand Chispa trainings so that we can have them in, say, Waterbury, New Haven, New London,
Right.
Bridgeport, and really focus on the communities of color, which again are in the cities.
So in terms of your internships, do you also tend to attract education majors? I would imagine that that might be something that would be really interesting for them, because it would be a chance for them to get some real-world experience educating youth in a certain topic. You do.
Yeah. Without a doubt. Education majors, if there are any education majors out there who would love to help us and volunteer for the Chispa program, certainly we're more than
What is the
willing
website
to.
if somebody is interested?
Yeah, so we have we have two websites, but the main website for Chispa, it's www.conservationeducation.org. So that's conservationeducation.org. That's for Chispa. We also have a Chispa Facebook page, which is Chispa CT. People could look us up there. And we're always looking for more interns, really.
And then how about volunteers? Let's say we have an adult who's watching this segment and is very interested in getting involved. How might an adult volunteer be utilized in
Yes. So one of the things that we found is, in order to really successfully implement something like this, and if you have, they always say the teaching ratio, 10 students to 1 adult to 10 students. And so certainly an adult can participate by helping us while we're doing the trainings. So the Chispa trainings, we cover the different topics that I mentioned, from government to environmental justice issues. And it's all about not only that classroom time, but the outside time, those actions that we have in the community that really help the participants of Chispa, which we call environmental promoters, environmental promotores is the name, to really get a better feel of how they themselves can change the community that they live in and empower them. And really, again, going back to that spark, igniting that spark. So the adults can help out by, whether it is during the classroom session, during the actual training sessions, or outside of that training session, which is, I call it the outside training session. So we do things like canvassing, where this summer we had youth participants help us register folks to vote.
I was going to ask you about that, so that's wonderful.
In a nonpartisan way,
of course,
obviously.
right.
But registering people to vote, doing environmental surveys of the public, that's another action that we've done before and we want to continue. But to get in contact with us, again, through the website, www.conservationeducation.org, or the office number, which is, I don't know if they could see from here, but 860-236-5442, 860-236-5442, and then my email, which is Wildaliz, WILDALIZ @ctlcv.org.
Wonderful. I wanted to also ask you, I noticed that the Conservation League has a environmental summit coming up next week, it looks like. And I was wondering how Chispa and some of the youth fit into that opportunity and what goes on there.
Yeah, so we've been around for over 16 years, and now we're entering into our 16th annual environmental summit. We hold it we tend to always hold it in the same location, but we have it at the riverfront. So that's at 20 Liebert Road in Hartford. And the Chispa fits into this model of the Environmental Summit because the Environmental Summit provides a space to talk about environmental policy issues that are going to be up and coming for 2017 at the state level. And so it's a chance for the Chispa participants to connect with state legislators,
change makers.
Change makers. Governor Malloy is going to be there. The Commissioner for Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, Clee, will be there as well. And so it's a great way for the participants, the promotores, to be in direct contact with with those change makers.
And I would think it would also kind of work the other way as well. It would be really interesting for the change makers, the legislators and people in charge of policy to be informed by the youth who are going to inherit this
Yes.
world or are already in the process of it, to see what is important to them. And they're also, frankly, going to be the voters of the future if they're not already. So again, what matters to them and what issues are important to them. So that sounds like a wonderful opportunity. Yeah. Are there other sort of field trips that you do with?
So a memorable one, we try to always go to the state capitol to have that direct connection. We had youth who, actually all of the youth when we started off with the 11 that participated this past summer, who had never set foot in to the state capitol, had never set foot into their local city hall. And so to go from not having that experience to then knowing who their state representatives are, who their state senators are, certainly very empowering, because they're the ones who are asking the questions, right? And they're the ones who are actually going in front of their elected officials and doing testimonies of what they want to see themselves in their community.
So you spoke about some of the projects that some of the youth can do, or all of the youth, I'm sure, are invited to do outside of the classroom. And you mentioned that could be an opportunity for adult volunteers to get involved. What are some of the projects that have been done? I know when I was working with YWCA, a group of the summer girls, they had done a project called Black Girls Go Green, and they were going to be doing some recycling within their school. What are some of the projects that some of the students who've been involved with Chispa, what have they done?
So I had mentioned before the voter outreach, the voter registration. And so they received really great training from the Secretary of State's office, actually directly from Wildaliz Bermudez, who's the Director of Constituent Services there.
Great.
An interesting project for the youth from that connection was to have the youth go on Univision TV show and to interview about the importance. So they were interviewed about the importance of voting. So that was a really nice tie-in, but another thing that we have in mind, and that's coming up for January, as we're hoping to expand and teach youth in Waterbury with LASE, is to have them plant trees. And so certainly as a direct action in their community. But before we do specific actions that have to do more with, like, on the ground specific neighborhoods and targeting neighborhoods, we do environmental surveys of the public so that it's meaningful for that specific area, for the population. Right? And so the youth do those surveys, they interview the public, and from that then they can create the kind of action that they want to see.
So when you say they do surveys, do they actually go out and canvass with clipboards?
They canvass with clipboards,
Door to door, or like at malls and shops? And
like at shops, So for instance, this summer we went door to door to shops along Park Street. So just knocking on each.
You mentioned summer a few times. Are there discrete opportunities in the summer that families would want to know about, that their students could get involved with special projects, or not necessarily camps, but of that age? What's going on?
Yeah, so I mentioned summer because Chispa is very new. And so when we started off, it was right in the summertime. But it's certainly something that we are looking at implementing in high schools. So throughout Connecticut. We're starting off in Hartford, but I mentioned Waterbury as well. During the summer, there's a lot of youth workforce readiness programs. And so there are...
You mean workforce readiness, got it.
Yes, yes. Did I say that backwards?
No, that's right.
Yeah, so those programs... And that's how we partnered with the Center for Latino Progress. They have, for those who want to get that kind of experience during the summer, there are specific nonprofit agencies, such as the Center for Latino Progress, that interviews youth who are interested in working, getting those readiness skills, work readiness skills, and they place them in different locations. And Chispa was one of those programs that they were placed.
Got it.
And so certainly there's an opportunity there. During the summer is a great time for youth to get even more involved because they have more time available. So,
Sure.
yeah.
And how about one other question I have? Our viewers here right now are in the Farmington Valley, which also includes Bristol. Is that one of the places that you are doing work already, or is it somewhere that you would like to, expand to do work?
It's somewhere that we would like to expand to do work. Yeah. So again, we're not just limited to Hartford or the greater Hartford area, but certainly we want to have our message be spread to as many locations as possible, because when we talk about the environment, we're talking about right now, our present, and our future.
Sure, and it seems that Bristol has a growing, at least Latino population, for sure. And I think also there would probably be wonderful opportunities for students from perhaps Tungus Community College and some of the colleges out here in Farmington Valley that could possibly be interns for you as well.
That's a great idea.
So that sounds wonderful. Wildaliz, if you could share once again the website so that people can get more information about Chispa, which again means spark in Spanish.
Yeah, so our website again is www.conservationeducation.org. conservationeducation.org. And certainly you can call us 860-236-5442. Or if not, you can also reach me via email at my email address is Wildaliz, that's WILDALIZ @ctlcv.org.
We hope you have a very productive environmental summit next week with some of the youth represented. And thank you so much for being on our show, Wildaliz.
Thanks for having me.